said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch, you filthy... Flyover state of fear. Welcome back to Flyover State of Fear. I got Brian and myself here this time. How are you, Brian?
Good.
Good. Today we are talking about Jacob's Ladder. First watch for me, full disclosure.
Oh, first time watch. That's really
Yeah.
exciting for me because not first time watch for me. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I knew
Look,
you
I threw
owned
my
it.
crappy camera out of focus by holding up a DVD. There it goes. I think I'm back.
You're back. You're back.
I did want to talk. I know we're going to talk a little bit about other stuff before we get into the movie.
Yeah.
But can I tell you about this? Is a artisan DVD. It's an oldie. You know,
I'm
it
familiar
says,
with the
if you
brand.
can see up here, it says special edition. Okay. Can I tell you what the special features are?
Yes.
16 by 9 widescreen, Dolby Digital audio, digitally mastered, reverse spiral dual layer disc. So they're talking about the actual disc itself and the way it was produced.
Mm-hmm. That's a special
Interactive
feature.
menus, which this one came to me. There was a thing on Twitter this week. Somebody was like showing the Buffy intro menu, interactive menu thing that was like you like weave through a graveyard.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And I commented, I was like, well, people don't forget that used to be a selling point. Now, this didn't even have that. To them, an interactive menu is just a list that you can like flick around on. So don't get me wrong, there was nothing like that in Jacob's Ladder. Scene access. Again, that's scene selection. They're touting that as a special feature.
Does it have actor bios?
Production notes and cast and crew information.
Okay, yeah, that's...
And then, of course, the theatrical trailer. That's it, baby, for a special edition.
No, you know what? That's already better than the $50 4K that A24 sold of Midsummer.
It didn't even have a cast and crew bio.
It didn't even have a menu, Brian.
Oh my god. It was just like, it just goes straight to movie.
It's too high up, to
Yeah.
be fair. It's beautiful. It's in one of those long things, the artwork, book, casing.
Is this the director's cut one?
Yes.
Okay.
Beautiful. Everything, the DVD, the Blu-ray, 4K, whatever, I think it's the 4K I bought. It is plug it in movie. Nothing.
Yeah.
Not even an option of, do you want theatrical or director's cut?
No, what happens if you hit the menu button?
I think it just goes to the pause. I don't. I gotta retest it. I just remember being kind of salty. I remember I had some horror friends going, "Oh, great! Like that was like great, like beautiful packaging." I'm like, "Oh no, I'm a much different collector. You know, I'm like upset that the Blu-ray I already owned, the regular one they put out, even had like a little featurette on it, a menu.
Yeah.
This one, so at least Jacob's Ladder gave you a little bit.
Well, this is like, and I think this really speaks to how early of a DVD is, where literally they think the features that we considered normal for a DVD or a movie now on physical media were considered special at the time. You know what I mean? It's like what's special is the fact that it has a menu, because that's just not a thing. It's not a tape. It was just new format.
All right, if you can see this, this is actually a newer one. This isn't
I'm into it.
The first Dumb and Dumber DVDs were the cardboard
style. I still have some of those laying around.
This is the double-sided,
Yeah.
Speaking of interactive menu, interactive menus. Interactive menus. That's the highlight here too. Same thing. Widescreen and full screen, Dolby Digital, multiple languages, trailers, and background information of stars.
I love it.
No,
they were getting away with murder in the early 2000s.
Like, what's this? I know we're on a tangent here, but I have a few DVD just on the side. I finally cleaned my Blu-rays. Actually, this Fly is jam-packed, and so is The
I have
Descent.
that version of The Fly. I have that version of The Descent.
Yeah, so that's actually, and then those 2 movies I now own on Blu-ray. But yeah, no, that happens. No, I had to rent it. I had to actually purchase it on Amazon. But we'll get to that. How have you been in the meantime, or what have you watched?
Oh, actually, that's funny you should mention. I did have a couple movies the first one I'll talk about real quick is only horror adjacent. It's more like a thriller. It's
Mm-hmm.
called The Royal Hotel. It's got Jessica Chenwick and the girl who I think is from Ozark and is going to be in the new Fantastic Four movie, the little blonde girl.
That girl.
But his name is escaping me at the moment.
Kind
So
of has a
I'm
little
sorry if she watches this. I'm sorry.
kind of has like a little feral child look to her.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a like a tension thriller. They're 2 girls kind of have to take a job out in like the kind of a mining town in Australia, like doing bartending shit, and it's just kind of like generally a lot of like unease and uncomfortable, and kind of like playing with the idea of like
That sounds fun.
microaggressions and and
Oh,
things
that
like
sounds
that.
good. It sounds good, not fun.
Yeah, no, but it was pretty good, and I would recommend at least giving that a shot. And then a horror movie that I knew nothing about, had never heard of. Um, I ended up just seeing it, one of those things where you flip by, like it had a cool poster. It was on Hulu. It's called Lord of Misrule. No, any
Lord of
heard of it?
Misrule? No,
Lord of Misrule. No,
no.
never.
I also
It's just brand new. It's from 2023. It doesn't have a lot of actors I recognize. It might be like an English or an Irish. It might have been made overseas. It does have Rafe Innes in it, the dad from The Witch, and uh, he's from The Office, and he was the voice of the Green Knight, and he's
yeah.
a guy who's around a lot now. He was in it. He's kind of like the most notable person in it, but it was kind of a folk horror. A lady who's like a Catholic priest, or in a no, she's not Catholic, but anyway, she's like a more traditional religious priest in a small town where there's also kind of like a old school pagany vibe. Playful, not like, but or is it? And then her daughter goes missing, and it's is it something supernatural, or is it just like a regular kind of true crimey thing? There's like an element of that. So again, another kind of pleasant surprise, something I had no, just we're flicking around. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
I
that's kind
like
of cool, and then it ended up being pretty good.
I like that. No, I've been since we
And I
last
love a
talked.
good folk horror. Folk horror is really like becoming one of my favorite subgenres. Like I
And good
really
ones are
like.
hard to find, and like because I feel like they were easy enough to make, and there's a kind of a slew of them. But the ones that are actually like
I
strong.
think I recommended one our last episode too. Um, so if you go back and watch that, I think I recommended another good one. Now the name is escaping me, of course.
No, it's all good. But yeah, I definitely yeah. But recently, just tonight, so when this come out, it'll be old news. But Mike Flanagan, who is kind of become our like very reliant in the horror space, like a good director, good voice, like a good voice, a good shepherd, I would say, of like
Yeah,
delivering quality.
yeah. Even some of his stuff that didn't hit 100% with me, the quality was still very
Yeah,
high
like I
on
know
it.
you weren't big on Midnight Mass. I liked it. It was still
I
it's
definitely there's some things I really liked about it. There's stuff that really stuck with me about it. I just didn't think as a whole, I thought it
it's
was a
not.
little like overwrought. Maybe should have been could have tightened down a little bit.
Oh, he definitely gets that
Yeah.
note, right? Like so anyway, he's been chosen
But
to
then again, his long director's cut version of Doctor Sleep is so
so good.
good, so
So
good.
he's been chosen to shepherd this
To take the reins.
this Exorcist trilogy
Yeah.
trilogy from
Well,
David Gordon
honestly,
Green.
from what I read, it sounds like the trilogy thing's out the window. It's just like
That's what the word
take the
is.
franchise and please just do whatever. We don't care.
Take the name, make a good movie,
Yeah.
because the movie's name is going to make money anyway, and that's what I was curious with.
Or
So
is
we're
it?
like, no, that's what I was curious with.
Yeah.
Exorcist Believer was a hit
Really?
financially. I mean, budget was 30 million, which is modest for that type of movie
Yeah.
today. Its box office 137.
Okay, but
That's
we're not taking into account the fact that the studio paid like $4 billion for the rights to The Exorcist.
well, that's probably where a lot comes from, and this is where it's like you're probably they have to know this, like, because everything right now is this
Because, like, yeah, they
financial.
made a
It's
profit on that movie eventually, even though it was critically derided and whatever. But they are still what
um
3 billion in the hole, three and a half
they
billion in
paid
the
a
hole.
lot for those words.
They really paid a lot for the
I forgot
franchise.
about that, but I was curious of like what are Mike Flanagan's bigger movies he's directed, right?
Mhm.
So his
He
first
hasn't really had a big box office
no,
hit.
his first movie, not first,
Also,
but
he's been
his
more of a Netflix TV show guy for a while too.
well, that's where he fell into. So his first thing, like theatrical, where we would have all heard him, is Oculus. Modest like hit for that time, 44 million. I'm sure that's nothing.
I
Next thing
I
is a
would say I remember that being an early like kind of streamer hit. Was that
yeah. It got
2015 that came out?
I think 2013. It got thrown into, it wasn't streamer, but it got thrown into unfortunately thinking of like more mediocre movies at the time because it
Hmm.
looked like that. Anyway, then he does Hush, which is just a great small movie, makes it with his wife. It's one of the early Netflix originals.
Yeah, I remember Hush.
Uh, then I've never seen before. I'm just going through his IMDb. Never seen it before I wake. But he makes Ouija Origin of Evil. That first Ouija is ass, right? But that was one of those ones where horror people were like, actually give this like sequel a shot. It's not great, but it's not terrible. It's good. It's well made, and that's what Mike Flanagan does. But then this is where we hit his groove of like I'm a Stephen King guy or I'm an adaptation guy. Gerald's Game.
Yeah.
That's a very tightly directed movie that works. It's Netflix original. Haunting on Hill House is like
Yeah, this is when he really starts to hit his stride when he's
that
doing
puts him on
those. Yeah.
on the map. Then he gets Doctor Sleep, and Doctor Sleep's the biggest thing he's done in this whole list, and that has an okay box office. I think it should be bigger for like a Shining sequel.
Honestly, that was an impossible task.
It's
Like what
72 million.
he even was attempting there
Yeah,
to meld a book sequel to a movie that doesn't really match the book. I mean, he was really like it was tough. He had a tough
and
uphill climb.
it makes 72 million off of like a 45 million production budget.
And whenever you
Uh,
take in production budget, you almost got to double it for
and
advertising. So like that's basically a loss.
and it's not like The Shining 2 Doctor Sleep. Like that's a hard
Yeah,
sell.
yeah.
Anyway, so then he does another miniseries. Then he does four more miniseries for Netflix. Now he's the guy that's going to do The Exorcist. What I want to end on this, because it's not what this episode's about, is that's the most hopeful person you could put in for any horror franchise. He's not a Jason Blum shill who's going to make you dog shit. But we all know he should be the guy that should be leading Nightmare on Elm Street if they ever want to get that going.
Also, I feel like they missed their opportunity between Doctor Sleep and Midnight Mass. They really missed a note on having him adapt Salem's Lot. I thought like
When's that coming out?
Midnight Mass should have been a
It's
Salem's Lot adaptation.
it clearly was supposed to be,
Yeah,
right?
it clearly like started as one.
Yeah, and they were like, "No, we can't get the right," because they made a remake.
It was a
There's
real Jackie Jork jump situation there. They didn't have the rights. They had to just do it.
Jackie, that fucking Amy Winehouse movie just feels like Jackie Georgia.
Yeah,
But
I remember I thought that was a parody. The first time I saw the trailer for that Amy Winehouse movie, I was like, "That's a parody trailer.
I,
That's not real."
the original trailer of that feels more real than the re-edit they did for the. I went to go see the movie one of the movies the other week, and that movie was on like had the trailer, and it still looks bad, but it's like nothing. It's just like the montage of no conversation, so you can't
Yeah,
tell you can't tell how badly acted it is.
yeah. They cut out all the performances.
But yeah. Anyway, so I'm hopeful for it. Could do a cool job. Who knows?
Yeah,
Also,
I like Mike Flanagan. I think he definitely can't do any worse. That Exorcist Believer sucked real
yeah,
hard.
we both watched at the same time. It's it. I remember it's like it starts off and you're like maybe there's something here, and then it goes, oh no, child, please,
No, just kidding, just kidding.
just kidding. Go watch the Pope's Exorcist and at least like laugh.
Yeah, enjoy that.
All right, but Jacob's Ladder.
Ooh, let's get into it. 1990, Jacob's Ladder, Tim
Yeah.
Robbins,
So
Elizabeth Pena.
I've always known what the movie was. Like I know,
Sure.
especially like long running How It's Get Made joke. Jason will say, "So we got a Jacob's Ladder situation going on." When any
And
movie just
that's going to play into, I think, when we're talking about the movie, there's some things I want to talk about. So, like, I think it's that kind of cultural osmosis of the, like, quote unquote twist of this movie, I think is interesting in retrospect.
because I watching this for some, I'm like, it's clearly an influence on a lot of these other things. I'm like, oh, this reminds me of this movie, and this reminds me of this, and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, but that's very Jacob's Ladder, right? Like like this is very reminiscent of like your Vanilla Skies or like movies where it's like what's not really going on, and or
Yeah.
even like a couple years later where like Devil's Advocate is like
Yeah, kind of twisty, mind bendy,
yeah, like
like,
demons in the world, and we could get all into it. And anyway, so but I was going through a list and I was like, this movie popped up recently, and weirdly enough, I've actually coincidentally have had like weird nights of sleep, and when dreams feel too real, and I was like, it's like, oh, that's a weird coincidence. We're watching this. I'm watching this today.
there's definitely some of that in this movie, sure.
Well, what I took away from it to start with the end and the beginning is it's all supposed to feel very dreamlike, and characters behave the way your dreams behave. And I'll expand more on that, but it's directed by Adrian Lynn, screenplay by Bruce Joel Rubin, who also wrote Ghost.
Yeah, Adrian Lynn, I only mostly know him for directing one of the two Lolita adaptations, the less good one, from what I
Yes,
heard.
Fatal Attraction. He does sexy movies.
Yeah, he does haunt thrillers.
He does sexy movies except for Jacob's Ladder. Because if you look at his IMDb, it's like
Well, I mean,
Flash.
there's definitely a lot of toplessness in Jacob's Ladder, if that's your thing.
Yeah, but that would be like I'm 13 and like just anyone naked's like any topless chick is hot. Like, but like
Yeah.
in the context of the movie, I
No,
don't
it's
think
not
any
very
of it is
sexual.
supposed to be sexual. But like Flashdance, Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
I've never seen Nine
I
Man
wouldn't
Weeks.
call them erotic thrillers, but
In
like horny thrillers.
no. Indecent Proposal,
Okay, Indecent Proposal's erotic for sure.
Unfaithful, and
Yeah.
then he takes a, and then this is just me reading
So he kind of
Wikipedia.
ramped up
He
almost.
takes a 20-year break after Unfaithful, which was a hit and a good movie. So who the fuck knows what happened? And makes that Deep Water movie with Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas.
Oh, that was his comeback movie?
Where I'm pretty sure I didn't see it, but I remember the word being on that movie, be like, yeah, they have no chemistry, but they're just trying to have sex the whole time.
Yeah, I remember it. Like that's was the word on the street was just like, yeah, it's like a weird horny cuck movie.
Yeah, so 20-year break from Unfaithful to
You
that.
know
So
what though? I kind of love that he like the narrative of like I'm coming out of retirement because I got a horny cuck movie in me. I gotta make it.
Ben needs me.
Ben needs me. Me and Ben, we got a plan. Like Ben going to Adrian Lynn's house is like nobody can direct my horny cuck movie but you, man.
There's a service called Hulu. You know what to do.
Like,
Wait,
he has to explain the concept of streaming services to him because he doesn't know.
it's just so old.
It's
Wait, you know
very
what's really funny? I'm just this is the episode of diving on these people's Wikipedias. The writer of Jacob's Ladder, so he has two hits in 1 year: Jacob's Ladder and Ghost. I don't know. Jacob's Ladder's not really a hit, but Ghost, massive hit.
I don't know. I
But
feel like Jacob's Ladder. It's got a
it
good.
made its box
Yeah,
office.
I mean, it might not be hit,
Culturally,
but it's got a cult following for sure.
What's making me laugh my ass off on screenplay and story by is Stuart Little 2.
That's good stuff.
It's like
Didn't M. Night Shyamalan write the first Stuart Little?
It's
Isn't that
something like that.
something
But
like that?
Deep Impact, Stuart Little 2. But he gets his start kind of not full start, but Deadly Friend, the forgotten Wes Craven movie with Christy Swanson.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's very
I don't
weird.
remember that.
It's so silly. It's like Christy Swanson's like dies. I have the Scream Factory version. And then she like comes back as like a robot, and it's a killer robot movie.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's like well known for oh god, what's Mama? I think Mama Fratelli's in it.
Oh, okay, all right.
I want to say, but I think it's known for her getting her head exploded by a basketball being thrown at. It's very it's like it's such a. I own it. 'Cause someone was like, you gotta watch it at work.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, $12 on the Scream Factory sale. It's goofy, and it's like, Wes Craven, you're a better filmmaker than this. But yeah, Christy Swanson. Anyway, so Jacob's Ladder. Real quick, did I exit all that stuff?
Yeah, we got all the cast stuff in. We can we can start out. They start out in Vietnam. We start off.
Yeah, that's perfect. It starts off.
We start off in Vietnam. Who's who of character actors?
It's great. The Ving Rhames
in the Vietnam buddies. Like some of these guys, I'm gonna say their real name, and some of these guys, I'm gonna say what I know them as character wise.
That's the way to do it.
Okay, so you got Ving Rhames. Okay,
like Ving Rhames, like peak also talking just like Marcellus Wallace.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, you gotta imagine if this came out in 1990, he's like less than 5 years away from being Marcellus Wallace, which is pretty great. You're like, oh, this dude's about to have a glow up for sure. You got him. You got Pruitt Taylor Vince, who I fucking love, and who's just about to get a big bump because he got cast as Pa Kent in the new Superman movie. So that's rad.
Yeah, because I think of him as just like the Office Space of the uncomfortable up angle.
Yeah, he's
psychiatrist.
He's more he's in that movie. He's in that movie Identity.
Yes, no, he's the serial killer. That's what he's in the two movies I mentioned, but Identity, he's the big twist at the end.
Yep, he's the guy. He's like the guy. He's also in a really, of course, this is a thing that we always have to say because of my wife. She's in a great X-Files episode. I can't help it. I see it now. She's incepted me with like what character actors are in. But he's all like, I think Mississippi Burning is another one of his, and he's just like a guy who is just always good anytime he shows up. You got Eric LaSalle, pre-ER fame, Eric LaSalle. And then the two guys who I have to call by their character names from other things. You got the Seidler from Seinfeld. He's worked with Elaine, and he sneaks up on her. And
that's who that is.
That's who the guy, the kind of younger looking guy is. And then you've got Mustang Sally from The Sopranos. The guy who like bashes the dude over the head with the golf club and then gets killed by Burt Young from the Rocky movies. So love them. But this is just what a great lineup of character actors for these roles for what it would end up being very small parts.
Oh, they're like
they're in the scene movie. And they're in like one scene later in the movie. They come back for like a little bit and then that's it. But like just a murderer's row. I loved it.
But yeah, so they're in Vietnam, and it starts very like casual hangout of like some guys are smoking pot, they're joking around, and then
they couldn't afford Fortunate Son. They don't have like the classic 70s songs to play, but it's supposed to be Vietnam. Although it's definitely Vietnam on a budget because like
I think it's Puerto Rico.
It's not super tropical. I think I see some oaks and some maples there.
Yeah, I think it's Puerto Rico. Yusuf, dig in.
Get on it. Let us know.
But yeah, they immediately get like attacked, and you can't really see who's attacking them. Although if you do slow it down, you can see it's their own.
Yeah, they get attacked. Well, a couple of the guys kind of start freaking out first. Like I wrote down reefer madness. A couple of the dudes are smoking weed and they start like kind of freaking out a bit. And then at the same time, an attack happens, and mayhem ensues. And like I said, I didn't. I'll take your word for it, but I don't. I feel like they go out of their way to try to keep it vague of what the attack is. At that point in the movie, you're definitely supposed to just think it's probably the Kong. They're getting attacked by the Viet Cong.
Yeah, and it's very like sporadic. It's flashes of like what you might see later done in like Saving Private Ryan, of like body horror, of like people picking limbs up or intestines.
Sure. You
don't really know what's going on with your characters.
Right, just a lot of freaking out, a lot of a little more focused than the scene in Event Horizon where they like are looking at the video and everybody's like having a crazy demonic orgy. But like it's that chaotic. It's not as like
but
gross as that, but it's like that chaotic.
But we wake up to Tim Robbins on a subway 1975, like dirty New York City. Wakes up and he's walking around and he thinks he misses his stop and he talks to this lady, Bushka, and she's giving him nothing.
I did want to. Did you think? I don't know how familiar you are with Full Metal Jacket, but I thought that Tim Robbins had real Private Joker vibes. That's Matthew Modine. He's just like he feels very styled in that way. And I mean, Full Metal Jacket had only come out like 2 years, 3 years before. So I don't know. I wonder if the casting is kind of deliberate there.
Oh, I think the styling is very like he has a very distinct haircut there to be like he's in the 70s. Like
Yeah, but I think even like his little glasses and stuff, they give him I really feel like they're trying to like kind of tap into that kind of look that Matthew Modine has in Full Metal Jacket.
Well, it's funny if his look is interesting. Because to me the glasses, I was wondering that too. It's like, why do you give a character glasses? Like, there's a reason for it in a movie like this.
Because he has things he needs to see and he's not seeing the full
right. Like I'm saying, in a movie like this, there's reasons he doesn't just have glasses. It wasn't right. But also Tim Robinson's so fucking tall. He's like 6'4", 6'5" in real life, and this movie doesn't try to tell you any otherwise. Like,
no. Yeah, they just let him be. I feel like that's another thing that Shawshank Redemption knew to do also was like make him feel awkward. Like let him just like be lanky and like hang around
he's
and
awkward
like
in this.
Yeah. Also a subtle thing I think they do is, and this has to do with more the time period, they make him a postal worker, which doesn't really come into the story very much aside from that you see that he works there with his girlfriend or whatever.
I thought that was going to be bigger.
But I think the idea is that they're tapping into that like late 80s, early 90s idea of postal, the postal worker who's like the Vietnam vet who's who's off. That was like a trope back then, and there really were people who freaked out and shot up their mailrooms and stuff.
I thought it was going to be more like that makes more sense. I was more like still in service. Like still doing a service job.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like it was just them trying to use a shorthand that he might be unstable. You know what I mean? And it's like, and that's more of a thing. I don't know if people watching it today would pick that up.
Or maybe there's something cut. I thought
it was really more of a thing that was like of the time.
I thought of like going post, like like postal, like right, like it crossed my mind, but I didn't think about it too much. You get that nice little scene, like the scene of the girl singing at him with like catcalling him.
Yeah.
Which is such a funny scene. There's just the one random guy sitting with them. And that seems very like in hindsight, looking back in the movie, is that dreamlike of just like, I would just allow it to be catcalled once.
Yeah. Just random things that happened to me.
But anyway, he wakes up, he goes to this train, and he encounters this one woman she says nothing to him, and then he encounters someone sleeping, and you see this kind of like reptilian tail
It's like a
thing.
fleshy tail. It's like a rat tail. So upsetting. A fleshy tail is so upsetting.
And kind of freaks him out, but can't tell. And he gets off the train, and then we're, into his apartment with his.
Well, he gets up at like the train station's closed. He has to like walk on the tracks and
Oh,
stuff.
sorry, I'm skipping over a ton.
Just get like
No, this is
straight home. He
this
has
is
like
a
a
nightmare.
weird situation. He gets off the train and then he's at a station, but he can't get to the road from the
You're
street
right.
from there or
I'm sorry.
something.
This is I'm completely going. This is a nightmare. He can't get over, and then one comes to him, and he has to like dive, and there's like the morphing faces of the like.
Yeah, in the back
demons.
of the train is going by. You're getting that like fast motion and the weird like
and then
mongoloid guy.
And then we're out of this area.
Yeah.
Into into him taking a shower and his girlfriend who but that's where I think this is very all a dream. I don't know if that's up for debate or not, but like all a dream, because that feeling in dreams of you can't leave somewhere, you're like, all right, I'm gonna get up and leave the room, and you're like, wait, I don't know if you experience like nightmares and dreams like this. Like, I keep putting down my cell phone, but I can't send a text message, right? Like Today Modern, like I'm trying to get in touch, but like this movie had a lot of that, and even to his girlfriend, who at first you're like, oh, she's just incredibly horny and sweet.
Yeah,
like that's how she's written.
But she's always weird about his family. Like we do a lot of exposition here with his girlfriend.
Oh, but she's an asshole.
Yeah. Well, we do a lot. They do a lot of exposition here. You find out that he's estranged from his family, that he has kids, that he has a kid who died while he was in Vietnam.
Macaulay Culkin jump scare.
Yeah, Macaulay Culkin jump scare. Even younger than Uncle Buck. This may be the youngest Macaulay Culkin yet.
So, a good fun fact of this is he's not credited in the movie at all.
Really?
I don't know if he's like in the credits or not, but he's not in the promotional. He's not in the. I believe he is uncredited.
Yeah.
And it is because his father, who we all know the Culkin like shitty family scenario, but was like in charge of things, said, take my son's name off of this because his star was rising, and it was like, this isn't our image we want. This isn't the type of movie we want to be associated with.
Oh, damn, that's funny.
But then it's like the good son.
Yeah.
Kid can't stop dying in movies for a couple years.
Yeah, nobody plays a dead kid
girl.
like Macaulay Culkin, boy. Woo, boy.
But Macaulay Culkin, in the few scenes in, exceptionally good.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Macaulay Culkin was naturally talented. Like that is just the case. Like you can't watch Uncle Buck, and he is like 5 years old and just absolutely destroying in scenes with John Candy. Like
there's a reason why they gave him that, but yeah, like and from an acting standpoint and filmmaking, like that's why I think this movie gets its cult status. Like it's acted terrifically.
Yeah, and like you said, it's got a lot of cool stuff that we saw like ripped off and put into other movies. It's got a lot of horror tropes. The like fast motion, like head spinny, like
that is in every like new metal video.
Yeah, a lot of like J horror vibes in this. Like before, you know what I mean? Like there's some of that. There's elements of that here for sure.
But yeah, this movie, in horror wise, is definitely in like. It's reliant on the imagery to freak you out.
Yeah.
The concept
and like you were talking about the dream-like kind of transitions and kind of the way it's ever moving and kind of changing and keeping you off balance. Like you are trying to keep up with, just like Jacob, you're just as confused as him with what's going on and why, you're always on the back foot because you are in his shoes.
Because a Jacob's Ladder is a story from Dante's Inferno or something like that, about the place between heaven and trying to get there, and you're climbing the ladder of it all.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's very like trying to keep up, and I did rewind him one time. This is one I actually wish I watched twice before we record it, just to get it, but I get it. Do you think, I know we're still going through a lot of the plot of it, but do you think it's a smart movie or do you think it's a a smart movie for dumb people?
Um, I think it was probably it came out. We're kind of, in fact, there's a perfect scene coming up here after the whole thing with Elizabeth Pena. They talk about his kids a little bit.
She gets
They
wildly upset.
She gets wild. She's really inconsiderate about his dead kid, and
She's
she's
like, I
really
saw.
weird about him. Just like not only just pictures of him and his of him and his kids and his wife, but pictures of him as a child. And she's just like real weird about him, like
He,
experiencing the past. She's like, no, like kind of put that out. We
she
see her dump
goes,
all those pictures in the furnace, even though
yeah,
they
well,
come
that's.
back later. That's another dream. That's another dream thing where you're
Mm,
like, first of all, if we're with Jacob, how would we know she even did that? And
mhm,
secondly, he's got some of those pictures. Those pictures come back.
yeah, and she goes, I don't like when you cry, and they make you cry. And then,
Yeah.
but it's also implied that his other kids dropped the photos off to his apartment.
And like he could have seen them if she would have woke him up or something, but she was just like, he's not here, and took the pictures
Yeah,
and like shoot him away or whatever.
and then when he goes to the chiropractor, right? Like
Well, that's the scene I wanted to get to kind of
yeah,
answer your question a little bit. So, like, after this, after he has this interaction, we learn a little bit that he has kids and whatever. Also, they have the interaction where they talk about the Bible names. That's going to play into what I want to talk about
which
here.
is a crazy since she goes, I don't like biblical names. And then it's like, your name's Jezebel.
Yeah. Also, his name's Jacob. His wife's name's Sarah. Macaulay Culkin's name's Gabe. The boys' names that they were talking about that brought it up are
Jed
obviously both
and
Jedediah and I can't remember what the last one is, Malachi or something
something
like
like
that.
that.
But anyway, everybody's name in the movie is biblical names, and that's again
Gabe,
where so he goes to Danny Aiello, and Danny Aiello's his chiropractor, and
he's
he's
so
like
good.
breaks it. Danny Aiello's so great, he really is. Um, but then but he's like, oh, he's laying there like, you look like an angel. Anybody ever tell you that? And I wrote down, I was like, yeah, this movie's not subtle.
No.
Like,
But I don't
if you
think
were, that's what I mean. Like, at the
I don't think
time,
the
I just
movie
think we weren't
needs
as tuned in. I think if you watch this movie now, even if you watch it for the first time, you've never seen it, and you didn't even know, you would pick up on the cues.
I'd pick up on
Whereas
like it's
back
overtly
then,
religious.
I'm not necessarily sure everybody would have, you
It's
know?
also it also like a good we're in agreement this is a good movie, right?
It's a good movie, but you ask, is it actually a smart movie, or is it a movie that makes dumb people feel smart?
I think it's
And I
smart.
think it might be a little of the second one,
Well,
but it
I think
doesn't mean it's not
it's
good, and it doesn't mean it's not good at like telling the story it's trying to
I
tell.
think the telling a story it's smart and also like things of like little things of like I don't know much literature stuff, but like art history, like a lot of the shots are trying to mimic like paint,
Sure.
like painting, like
Well,
paintings and religious imagery and this and that. I'm like, that's smartly made and directed, but yes, it's messaging of being religious and that, and
right, like calling out the biblical names. First of all, it's kind of the hat hanging that I don't like. It's like you could have had everybody's names be biblical names and
that's a
not
word.
have a conversation about that.
Oh, that it's just a weird line. The whole
Right, it just
scene.
feels awkward, and, like, it would have been a much more interesting thing, a little, like, Easter egg, and the same thing with Danny Aiello. You can have it be obvious that he is, like, the guardian angel character and that he is the I mean, honestly, to me, it was obvious by the fact that they made him a chiropractor, because the whole thing with the chiropractic is
You
that the
really
guy who
crush it.
invented it said he learned it from a ghost. So I
Oh
was
no,
like
I
so, like, to me, immediately by making the character a chiropractor, I'm, like, in my own head about that.
it's such a fake profession.
It is the fakest of professions.
Um,
It's like the people make fun of holistics and stuff. It's like you need to put chiropractors right in with them.
yeah, but he calls him a cherub too, like Tim
Right, he calls
Robbins.
him an angel, he calls him a cherub.
Yeah,
Again, it's like you didn't need to hang the hat and actually have him say the word. You could have like I don't know, just something else. Have
you
him make a
look
miracle on 30, or have him make a "It's a Wonderful Life" reference or something instead. Like, you know what I
it.
mean?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
It's just that I think there's a couple of times, like, it happens again later. They go to a party,
But
and
that's
Epitha Merkerson's there, and she's like a psychic. She's reading his palm.
such a fun scene
It's a
though.
great scene, but then she's like, "You're dead. You're already dead,"
And he
and it's
laughs.
like, and like I want to say that like 4 or 5 people in the movie tell him he's dead.
You're like, well, you don't exist.
Yeah,
Well, at
yeah.
that time,
Carmela Soprano's mom tells him that she can't find his file and stuff.
well, that seems hysterical to me. Of like, oh, we can't find her file like at the VA's office, and she's like, she doesn't exist. And then like another dream logic, they go into the room, and the guy's like, oh, he blew up he goes in a car accident last month.
That's a thing they do. They do later that I thought felt very dreamlike, where important information gets relayed kind of casually. Like, you know how in a dream you'll be like really worried about something or something important, and then you'll talk to somebody, they'll be like, "Oh, that's over. That happened 2 months ago." You know what I mean? It's just
mhm.
like, and then you're just on to the
I
next
had
thing,
it.
kind of like.
I had a vivid nightmare that felt real last night, and that's why I thought this was weird. But you're right, talking about important information. I remember this. So years and years ago, and this came back, and I said, "Did this happen? This never happened in my life." That like I went in someone's house to steal like video game equipment, and it feels real. It feels like a thing I did once. I
Right.
didn't. I could tell you 100%. I never was like,
Did
that house has a door open. I walked in and took, and then I went back and they were home or something, and
Yeah.
like I freaked out or blah blah blah. That never happened. But those memories came back from a dream I had last night. I went that. I'm in there. I'm in something. We got to get something out of a house. We're leaving the house, like but sneaking out. People are home, but the transitions into like the as a dream transitions into walking in front of a driveway, and the actor Andrew Santino is pulling up in a car, and the front window of this is how vivid it was. The front window of the car comes down like like an elevator, like a window,
Like
but
your side window would, only
yeah,
it's the windshield.
it
Yeah.
comes down and I go, wow, that's as I'm wow, that's really cool. But then I'm like, oh, hold on, and there's a guy walking like diagonally from what would be the driveway we're in front of the garage, and it's Jigsaw from the Saw movie, like Tobin Bell,
Yeah.
and I'm like, hey man, just so you know, like you live near the Jigsaw killer, and then that's kind of when the dream ended. Like,
Right, because you're kind of starting to break the reality. The reality's
yeah,
breaking
it
down a little
wasn't
bit. Yeah.
a full blown like nightmare or anything, but it felt
But it
so
was weird
real.
enough to like stick with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Jacob's Ladder had shit like that in it to me. Like I'll have mundane dreams myself
Well,
where
the thing where he's like totally flipping out about something, but then he gets some weird random information that shouldn't really appease him, but then it does for some reason,
mhm.
and you're just on to the next thing. That feels very dreamlike.
Yeah, I have very mundane dreams too, where I'm like, I wake up and I'm on the couch and I gotta go out and then go down and just one weird thing said to me, and then I wake up and it's like, wait, did what? So it's a terrible movie to say. I related to some moments of it, but I relate it to the way it's presenting uh dreams and nightmares.
Well, and the movie is also always giving you something new, so it doesn't give you a lot of time to dwell. Like, just as you have this situation where they can't find his information and his doctor doesn't exist, and
Yeah,
then he goes up to where his doctor should be, and a guy tells him he blew up. Just as he's trying to process that, he goes outside, and then somebody tries to run him over, and so you're on
mhm.
to that. Like, you know what I
and
mean?
then
Like, you can
and
now
then you
switch. Like,
see
why is somebody trying to hit him with a car? Why is
and then
somebody
you
trying to
see
run him over?
the demon faces and
Yeah, you get the
stuff
weird
again.
demon face. You got the guy warning him and then disappearing. Like,
hmm
that's a very dreamlike thing
But
where a person like pops in and pops out. Like,
then it moves, like you said, yeah, there's no time. Then it just moves on to the next thing. Like it's not dwelling. It's not like
right? Because then we go right into the party. Boom, they're at the party with he's at the
he's
party
having a
with
great
Elizabeth
time.
Pena now.
Well, he's having a great time, and that actually leads to my favorite scene of the movie. Not in a horror sense, but so he's at the party and he already went through that. He gets his palm read, and it is supposed to be this big deal. But Elizabeth Pena is consistently being like she's clearly a demon, right? That is her part.
I mean, that's definitely what they are leaning towards. She's
Like
always trying to like separate him from the things that seem like they make him feel better. She's always trying to like keep that from him, like the
yes,
pictures of his kids, the memories of his family, the psychic that he's talking to. She's trying to pull him away from that. You
and
know, she's
she's
trying to
like,
make him
"Oh,
dance. He doesn't want
are
to
you
dance.
flirt?" But when a flash goes on, like there's things that trigger, right? Because there's also
Yeah.
this underlying of like LSD gets triggered in drugs, or like that is part of it. Lights flat, and then he starts freaking out, and he's seeing this like lizard thing fuck his girlfriend on
Yeah,
the
like
dance
in the middle
floor,
of the dance floor, and then a
and
fucking big horn shoots out of her mouth.
and
Like,
she's loving it. Well, we also didn't mention the to mention the horn. The woman, the clerk, has her hat falls off and has a little horn on it too.
oh yeah, that's right. I
It's
forgot
very like
about that.
throwaway. It's
It's like a little nubbin, yeah, like under her
yeah,
hair.
but you know but yes, that party it becomes very intense, and like, but the music playing's like still like disco, so it's
Well,
like
and he
this.
has like a fucking breakdown. Like
Oh,
he
he just
fully
freaks out,
and then
and
what does she do? What does Lisbania do? She takes him home and starts yelling at him. He's clearly like he's under the covers. He's like seizing. He's like freaking
he's
out, and she's like talking about how he embarrassed her and
well, she goes,
shit.
"You're so embarrassing. I dated crazies before, and I will just let you be crazy on your own."
Yeah, like I don't need this in my life. And then like she's taking his temperature, even though she's yelling at him, but she's already trying to take his temperature. So it's
Yeah,
like
and
it's clear
he's
there's something wrong with him. And then of course he's like spiked the thermometer. He's got 106 fever. They
dead.
have to put him in an ice bath. Again, the ice bath imagery, I don't know if that's something
That's
that had been
biblical.
done much in movies before this, but it's definitely like felt very much like it had been taken from this, and I'd seen that like the overhead shots of people going into ice baths and stuff felt very very
New, refreshing.
yeah.
Refresh. Well, what that leads into my next fate. Like that, the scene of the ice bath to waking up next to his wife are my
Mm.
two favorite scenes of the whole movie. Of so that, and it's once again, I think the movie's very good. It's almost comedic to how quickly every neighbor and everyone is bringing just buckets and bags of ice.
Did you ever see the Aronofsky movie Mother, the Jennifer Lawrence
Yes,
movie? It felt
that's
like that, where like
you're right.
everybody is like all of a sudden piling in, like all of a sudden out of nowhere, everybody in your building is there, and they're all like kind of trying to help, but also just kind of getting in the way and being a little
Yeah.
annoying
Well,
and
it's an
stuff.
upsetting scene, right? Like
Yeah,
he's being pushed down, like you're gonna live, like don't worry. But it's so claustrophobic. Which again, when you have like, I'm sure Harrison's had 103 fever before, right?
yeah.
Or I'm sure he's had a high fever as being a parent. You're
I
like,
mean, Harrison's been very healthy.
good. No, no, I'm saying not a 106 is like you're gonna get brain damage. Like
Yeah, like oh my god, my brain is frying like an egg.
but like a high fever of like I've had bad flus where you're like,
Sure.
hey, more so I say a little kid because like we have to get you into this cold bath and you don't want to. Like
Because you have a
that's
fever, you're already freezing. You don't feel like you
like it
don't want. Yeah.
hurts. Like that's what I mean when I bring up Harrison because I remember being a little kid
Okay.
and like you know my
Well, just
mom having
in general, the thing of like not understanding when people are trying to help you and not being able to like kind
like
of reconcile with that.
being an adult. Like that happened to be being a teenager and my mom being like that. I'm like, no, I don't want to get like you go leave away. Like I'm still coherent enough. Like we don't want to get naked. It's only 102.
Yeah, it's fine.
Um,
It's weird.
but but yes, that scene compacts it. But what I really like is it does hard cut. It doesn't cut where you think it's gonna go.
Yeah.
And he wakes up in bed and he's like, it's freezing in here. The window's open and it's his wife. It's his who all intents and purposes his lovely wife.
Yeah.
Um,
We've seen her in the pictures and
we've
stuff.
seen
This is
her
the
in
first time we're
pictures,
seeing her live, I think.
and I mean, I questioned if it was her or not. Like, who's that next to him at first? But I love that,
You pretty quickly realize that this is like his home life. This is bad,
and I like that scene because the only time in the movie where I went, "Wait, is this the real movie?"
Yeah. I think that it does a really good job of holding that scene going just long enough for you to start to think like it can't be right. We're gonna get out of it.
Yeah.
It's gonna turn out. That. But it goes on just long enough to make you question it a little bit.
Well,
You know
does
what I
he have?
mean? You're
Well,
like,
they had the
and look,
they.
and the idea of the dream within a dream thing is interesting too. You're like, oh shit, is he waking up? Was that a dream? And now he's really
Mhm.
this is his real life? What the
Was
fuck?
he waking up with he's also within this dream and a dream. He's having the most realistic husband and wife, like, relationship conversation and this and that, like the way
This
he was.
this moment feels the most comfortable in the whole movie. This is the
Yeah,
first time you've ever felt safe in the whole
yeah,
movie.
safe. Like the way he talked about being married to the woman that works in his, not being being in a relationship that works with,
The one
that
who he works with,
works with,
yeah.
and how it's awful. Like he's like, because clearly this woman, in the eyes of this movie, even in their world, it's like.
It's like obviously
But then he jokes,
it's a physical relationship.
yeah. But then he jokes like, but she was good in bed, and the wife's
Yeah.
like, that's funny, and blah blah blah. The kid comes in. It's a very nice scene.
The interaction when he takes Gabe back to bed and the other boys wake up and are talking to him is all real natural. It feels very real father son, like real
Mhm.
parent child stuff. It feels like a very kind of like I said, it goes on just long enough to make you second guess.
Yes, because like, see, comparing back to my own dreams and all of this and blah blah blah, is when Laura and I first started dating, and like my wife's like very sweet, like she's just a very sweet woman. I would have dreams where she was, it was clearly her in the dreams, and be as mean and as and they'd be like scenarios more of like, of the of his girlfriend, and that of like, no, you
Yeah.
can't do that. And I'd be like, where'd this come from? And then we'd wake up and I'd say, dream Laura happened again, blah blah blah, and that hasn't, you know happened in
And
that.
it's a manifestation of you being, worried that she's going to turn out to not be as great as she really is. And,
Yeah,
and your brain is like working through that. And like, it's all very interesting. But yeah, that's.
yeah, but uh so
He
uh
does, of course,
so anyway, so
eventually
yeah,
wake
you're
up
right.
from that
He
too.
wakes up from that, and that to me, that whole, from the most
By Dr. Lewis Black.
was that Louis Block?
Yeah. The doctor who wakes him up when he's in the tub is Lewis Black.
Shit, I did not clock that.
Yeah.
Weird. Between that and like Jason Alexander.
Oh, the Jason Alexander. Like, I've seen this movie before. And I did not remember the Jason Alexander cameo, and I was very excited.
Yeah, no, go on to being woken up by Louis Black though.
Oh no, just that like he wakes him up. Um, he's like clearly struggling. Like this illness, obviously had an effect on him. But again, in one of the least subtle moments, I think he's like reading a book about purgatory. He's just like, I was like, okay, yeah, we get it.
Oh, I mean, and he's not even just reading; he's flipping through what we would all, just the illustrations of
Yeah,
depictions of like hell.
yeah.
He's like,
But says
oh,
the only word you can make out is like purgatory right
like,
across the top.
it's a subtle film.
It's art to understand.
But what's a version of this movie that, so we've, between us and like the so many movies we've covered over the years, there's few that are like these psychological horrors like this. We covered the cringy version of this in like the Butterfly Effect. Like the
Oh
Butterfly
yeah,
Effect clearly wanted to be a Jacob's Ladder situation.
yeah. It wanted to be as like serious as a Jacob's Ladder,
Yeah,
but
and like there were
it's
times,
too early 2000s. It
yeah,
can't
there
do
were
it.
times in this where I'm like, because Jacob's Ladder is a bummer,
Oh yeah, for
but
sure.
I think it's organically a bummer. And it's not like, not in a way where it's like, I'm comparing it to Butterfly Effect, where it's like, and his limbs got blown off, and your best friend became a crack whore.
It's not trying to like shock you into feeling sad.
Yeah, it's just like, it's very like, oh, his son, he had a son that passed before Vietnam. So the movie itself too is something we haven't mentioned yet. Also, very much is and wants to be. Uh, we treat our veterans like shit movie.
Yeah, it definitely gets into a little bit. Like we're about
Little
to
bit.
get into that element of it
Yeah,
here.
get us into that element a
Well, I
little
was gonna
bit.
say like after the whole thing, and uh, Jezebel does the black demon eye thing. She yells at him, and she has her eyes are all like completely
That was
black.
creepy.
Yeah,
Her
and
teeth
again,
are
a
like
thing that probably hadn't been seen as often as we've
her
seen it
teeth are
now.
like chiseled down,
Yeah.
and I was like, and that seemed like no, he was justified of pushing her out of the way and then
Hell yeah,
running.
it was. Like,
But
I
then the
get
movie
it.
also wants you to think, is it in his head in that scene? Because then she snaps back to nice Jezebel going,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Get out of here.
Is he just overreacting because he's freaking out, or is there something? But again, it's the movie is keeping it's like I said, aside from the moment when he's at home with his family, it's keeping you on edge the whole time. It doesn't want you to feel comfortable. It doesn't. You want to feel like him, and he's paranoid. Wants to keep you paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets a call from Paul, who is Pruitt Taylor Vince, one of his Vietnam buddies. He goes to meet him at a bar, which is in a boxing gym, maybe? They leave the bar and it's like they walk through a boxing gym on the way out of the bar. It's very weird.
You're right.
But anyway, he meets him and they basically are talking. And Pruitt Taylor Vince is basically like, hey, yeah, telling him he's having the same things. He's seeing shit. Things don't seem, people don't, aren't seeming acting right. Everybody's being weird. He feels like he's being watched. Feels like he's being followed. Um, they go out to leave and Pruitt Taylor Vince gets in his car and the car blows up. Car bomb.
Well,
And we're reminded, and it kind of like, oh yeah, you'd kind of like, because of the way the movie moves, you'd be like, oh shit, they did say something about didn't a doctor get his car blown
he
up?
got his car bombed, and we just got a little information, and someone finally he was like, that's great, I'm having the same effects.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
let's
yes, the car
find
bomb
something out together, and then of course he blows up, and we see again the guy who warned him about the car chasing him down the alley.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of pops in when the car bomb goes up, but then he disappears again. Again, very dreamlike. He's a guy's there for a minute, and you're like, "Who's that?" Then he's gone. So Paul's funeral, we basically have Vietnam reunion. All the boys are back. Ving Rhames,
and
Uncle
and
Sal.
it's something that you also that I know I went, oh shit, they're all alive. I thought I saw them get murdered in the beginning
Exactly.
of the
I think
movie,
this is the first time you
and
were like, "Oh, Paul's alive. Oh shit, they're all alive. Wait, what happened then?" Because it seemed like a lot of people were getting fucked up there.
And Jake's the only one who was, was the one their surviving member, because we kind of just saw him get a little fucked up.
Yeah. So they start talking, and of course, they too are all having weird visions. They're all having effects. So they start to think that it's something that the government did to them while they were in Vietnam, which is safe to say. I mean, lots of people died of cancer from Agent Orange. Lots of people have been experimented on the government. So, obviously. So they go to, this is where we have our Jason Alexander cameo. They go and the idea is they're going to have him look into their case. They think the military did something to him. They're going to he's going to research it, figure it out, try to figure out what's going on. This is the moment that I talked that felt very dreamlike. That where it struck me is he's like back at home talking to Jezebel and is like, "Oh, I'm waiting on a call from the lawyer. Or, I need to talk to whoever." And she's just like, "Oh, he called. He's not taking your case." And it was the kind of like that, like I talked about before, that feels just very dreamlike to me, where like something seems important and then somebody relays it to you in just a very casual, blasé, like kind of almost throwaway way. Like they just kind of like it, and then you're just on to the next thing. Now he doesn't quite move that quickly, but it is in that way where you're just like, wait, what? What do you mean he called? Wait, and I didn't like. I need to call him back. I need to talk. You know what I mean? It's just like, what do you mean it's over? And then you find out that all his friends backed out.
Well, they're all in one room. They're all weirdly in one room. He's like, nah, man. The government. We're backing out of this case. Like, we don't want to be a part of it. And when it cuts to them in the one, on the phone, because he goes, oh no, don't bother calling them.
Yeah.
That's when it's like, it also feels a little dreamy. It's like, what? Oh, they're all hanging, and they're almost being presented as like they're also in this purgatory, like they're part of your purgatory. That's how I read it, as like they're in one room together and they made this collective decision.
Yeah, they're all like exactly. they're being represented there because like it's all about what's going on for Jacob, and for him it's like they've all turned on him at once, so they may as well just all be a single mind now, right? They're all.
Yeah.
And he goes to confront Jason Alexander, and Jason Alexander basically tells him that they were never even in Vietnam. That
Yeah.
he's dropping the case because it's bullshit, and what happened is that they freaked out during some war games, and they all got dishonorably discharged or something.
Yes.
Which
And
we
that's
find out later is not true because he has his honorable discharge in his little box of memories.
Yes, yeah, like his little box of memories, the little flashlight. But this is
So
when we go right after that is about
again another point where that we're barely able to process what we just heard. We're like,
it's a
wait, what's
lot of
happening?
information.
And then he gets immediately like abducted into a car, like
And
grabbed up off the street.
It's that, I mean, that's been in movies prior to this and that, but that's something that it's very like that scene is parroted in everything. It's just that like you never heard of anything, stay away, you're getting too close. And as a movie point of view, it's trying to make us think, oh, are we uncovering some big government conspiracy
Right, again,
theory
it's this kind of like conspiracy thing they started with Paul. They're kind of feeding more into that.
And like,
and it does feel that way that like you talked about too with dreams, the way they kind of feed on themselves, where like one thing will kind of roll into the next, and they'll kind of, there's kind of an organicness to them. It's like, because this one conspiracy-ish type thing, all of a sudden your mind turns it into a conspiracy.
Like sometimes in like a dream, like I don't know, maybe mine or maybe I'm too vivid. Like if it starts off as some nightmare, it doesn't mean it's going to end that way.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, right?
Sure.
Like
yeah, absolutely.
Like you said, a snowball or this, and you won't remember that, or you're building some good story that you're like, ooh, this is really good. But by the time you're up, you're like, I don't remember a lick of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it plays like with that, right? So and they throw him out of the vehicle. And
they throw him out of the vehicle, he hurts his back. We know he has a bad back.
He's bad back, and it's in front of Santa Claus.
Santa Claus steals his wallet.
Yeah, that was just comedic to me. Where like that was in there as a goof to me.
Well, and I think too, it's to set up the next scene where he goes to the creepy hospital and he doesn't have any identification.
Yeah, and he says
so there's no way to contact. He's kind of like, it's to isolate him even more. There's no way,
But they bring him. They bring him to a hospital.
Which starts out as I like the way that it starts out as a normal hospital, and they're like, okay, we gotta take him down to X-ray, and then it's like, it just gets progressively creepier until they're in like a weird murder basement.
Well, people like mutilating themselves. And,
well, you see, like first they're just going through what looks like maybe an area that's under construction, and then it looks like an area that's condemned, and there's like broken glass on the floor, and then there's like body parts on the floor.
That's right. It's a mutilation.
It just keeps progressing.
Blood like crawling half people and.
Oh yeah, then there's weird freaks up on the ceiling and stuff. I mean, they really start to go for it.
Yeah, it's that scene reminded me of this movie is very different because I actually think this movie is like good and interesting and there's a lot moving, but like Fire in the Sky, the abduction scene is the only memorable part of that movie. That people are like, oh shit, do you remember that? Do you see that?
Yeah.
That's this scene. Like people at the time was like, that scene of the hospital was that scene of.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
You see all the crazy shit, but now I think.
It also reminded me of a little bit of Exorcist 3. Like it had some Exorcist 3 energy.
That's what I meant to say. I had that mental note down because Exorcist 3 is one of my favorites.
Oh sure, it's classic.
This has that scene has that energy in this movie. Not fully, because that's a more linear story.
No, but like there's definitely like some elements, some vibes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything tops that Exorcist dream sequence where it's like, why is Patrick Ewing Fabio and like another
Samuel L. Jackson with voiceover
in like a heavenly area and they all have angel wings, but
it's like heaven's waiting area. But
yeah,
that's such a great movie.
But they have him in this hospital and they have him like strapped down to the bed. Like they basically.
Well, Elizabeth Pena's the nurse and like the weird doctor.
And she's not talking.
They tell him he's dead. The weird doctor tells him he's dead.
They're like, you're dead. And he's like, I'm alive. I'm alive. And blah blah blah.
Does
And
the needle like right into his brain, like lobotomy style?
You get the no eyes guy.
Yeah, the guy with like the kind of
that was
like,
very
not like his eyes are missing, more like he has skin pasted over his eye, like his face is flat.
That was very X-Files-y.
Yeah. And yeah, they do the needle into the middle. And then again, we cut and he's kind of waking up in a normal hospital room.
He wakes up in a normal...
And his family's there again.
For a moment. And we are told, and the family's there though, but it's different the last time, and his wife with the kids are...
This feels more realistic. It feels like they're not together, but like your ex-wife heard you were in the hospital and she still cares about you. She's coming to check on you.
That's what I was getting to. Like, she's like, I still care for you.
Yeah.
And the kids are just a little like, whatever, like, you're good, okay.
I like the kids feel natural. The kids make it feel more real by not being all like stoic and sentimental, you know what I mean?
They're not like, oh my god, how, blah, blah, blah. They're like,
okay. He's all in traction and they're like, hang in there, Dad. Which is a pretty good joke.
Yeah, it's
pretty funny.
It fits well because then it immediately goes to Danny Aiello shows back up.
This is my favorite Danny Aiello scene because he's great, but his other scenes are a little kind of like heavy-handed and melodramatic, and like in fact, the next scene he goes from this scene to his next scene, and his next scene is literally just like a speech that explains the movie. So I kind of hate it, but I love him where he rescues him from the hospital. That is like the best. Danny Aiello about to like punch some nurses is my favorite.
He's like, fuck that, screw that. He goes, I'm getting out of here. This is not a real hospital. Modern medicine, my ass. And he's like
about to like bash somebody with an IV pole and shit.
I thought that was like a crutch. Like a cerebral
palsy
crutch.
I can't remember. Yeah, he might have a crutch.
Looking at it because he's like swinging, like, all right, man, and they just like, all right, and they just leave him, and he wheels him out.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't want to. You don't want to take on Danny Aiello with a crutch.
And then next thing we know, though he, actually,
it takes him he gives him his adjustment that he needs, so that
he gives him his adjustment. Like you said, it's heavy-handed.
And the dialogue is, it's well delivered and everything. What I don't like about it is that it overplays its hand. It's like explaining the idea of.
Can I read you the blurb?
Sure.
That he quotes. It's in the Wikipedia, and it's not.
No,
long.
That's fine.
So Eckert saw hell too. Eckert was he quotes a Christian mystic Meister Eckert. The only thing that burns in hell is the part of you that won't let go of life. Your memories, your attachments, they burn them all away. And this is while he's adjusting them. And he's like, but they're not punishing you, he said. They're freeing your soul. So if you're frightened of dying, you're holding on. You'll see devils tearing your life away. But if you made your peace, then the devils are really angels freeing you from the earth. And it's
nice sentiment, but again, it's too on the nose.
That belongs in Devil's Advocate.
Yeah, that belongs to Al Pacino.
Yeah,
yelling it in front of a fireplace.
But because it's like, all right, clearly now everyone we've encountered is a devil except for his wife and his kids and Danny Aiello. Yeah. That's it. Everyone else is that. They're the angels. And I like it because the movie does play out that way. He has to
the thing is that I even like the description. I like that bit of dialogue. I like that bit of writing. That's interesting. It's an interesting way to look at it. It's an interesting take. But again, I feel like at this point in the movie, it just feels a little too hand-holdy. You know what I mean? It would have been interesting to maybe, I don't know, do that a little bit closer to the reveal. I mean, I guess we're getting close
to the
anyway.
I think we're getting to the reveal more so than not of
yeah, because after this he pretty much does go home and go through his memory box.
Well, he just goes through his memory box and he gets the call from this guy.
Well, and this is where we finally learn what happened to Gabe too. Like when he's going through his memory box, we kind of find out what happened. We see what happened, how Gabe died.
He gets hit by a car. It's sad.
It's funny. He gets baby gauged.
You know what? He's filmed those scenes with and it's supposed to be upsetting, but
Oh yeah.
It's filmed too much like the 1970s, like here's home movies, that
Oh yeah.
it feels real.
Yeah, it does.
You're like, oh, I get it, but oh, okay. Um, but yeah, he gets hit by a car. He like clearly like
But the point is, like, after his thing with Danielle, we're seeing him like
let go.
processing some of this trauma and letting go of some of this trauma that he's, so he is taking into consideration what Danny
Mhm.
Aiello is telling him.
But
But
he's approached by
and I think this is like the demons again trying to get it, right. This is like they can sense that he's almost about to break free, and they try one more time to like rope him back in, right? By bringing in this
this.
other character who like will
See,
kind
I
of
don't.
draw him back to the conspiracy.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
guess that.
that's kind of what I'm getting from it?
Yeah, to me, I'm in the middle of that. I feel like that guy's more of someone who's
Well, we
if
can
we're
talk
thinking
about it
of
because this is the most confusing part of the
yeah,
movie to me.
if we're thinking, so I don't actually know if I agree with that because if we're thinking about it as like this is purgatory, right?
Sure.
Like he's running through purgatory. This guy and what he's saying and with the information he's providing him more sounds like not an angel, but like some sort a messenger to help get to that level. Like
To
he's
like get to like bring him to the truth, kind of.
yes, he's like providing
Okay.
him to the final
Okay.
boss, and essentially where he's because I think the information he's giving him is what happened. It's the reality of what happened.
See, and that's my question. There is like, it's fine if that's the reality of what happened. That's fine. But how in
Like they're
the
talking
if
in an
this is
alleyway
if this
or
is
like
all happening in his death throes, and what we're actually seeing is like the final firing of Tim Robbins' synapses in his mind, kind of like processing his life and death, how does Tim Robbins have that information somewhere in his brain that it kind of fires off? You know what I mean?
um this isn't a terrible answer for that. I'd lose a movie fight if this was
Mhm.
because I think movie. I think it's
Yeah,
this. I think it's the same way how there's a shot of Jezebel throwing the photos away to burn them. Uh,
even though he wouldn't know that, and
yeah, the
there'd be
whole
no way
move,
for him
like
to.
the whole movie, like every encounter's in his head, but it's not 100% filmed from his perspective.
Yeah,
Um, but I think, but you're right though. That's such a big hole. How would he know about the drugs and this? And he even
yeah.
says like
Again, I feel like it might be his brain trying to process.
death.
Well, and the idea of like the things he saw before he died, his friends possibly freaking out after having just taken drugs, maybe being attacked by someone that was
Oh
like,
yeah, they were smoking and
and then like when he has the vision of the guy stab him, and he looks and it's like clearly an American
yeah.
who's stabbing him and stuff. So like maybe he doesn't 100% know this is what happened, but it's his brain trying to process the things that he
Hmm.
saw as he was dying, you know?
Yeah.
Because who knows why he was
A
in a friendly
drug
fire situation, or why that person stabbed him, or if that even really happened.
a
We
drug
don't
called the
know. There's no way
ladder.
to know about
Um,
there's no way to know if that's the reality of
because
what
yeah,
actually took place or not.
because the guy's definitely a figment, or it's all a figment, but a
Right.
figment because it's also ridiculous that he goes very like, well, I've been following you and watching you and making sure just because I had to let you know the truth of what went down
Yeah.
because you're the only one who survived.
But you had met so many opportunities to do that and you never did. And
But it
like,
also doesn't make sense because all the other guys were around.
yeah.
Um, so I
Um,
don't know. I don't think that, but I guess my point of it is, I don't think that guy in the context of the world we're living in or the dream we're living in
yeah.
is one of the demons.
Okay.
I don't think because he's giving him this information that
Because
helps
he's more like
him.
an exposition. See,
Yeah.
like I hadn't really thought about it until we were talking it out, but
No, me
like,
neither.
but like the idea that Danny Aiello is guiding him and getting him closer to closure, and then this is a thing that seems to kind of almost try to draw him back into the conspiracy. But then, like you said, it actually does help him process what happened. So maybe it is just another step he needed to take that his mind needed. But anyway, I don't even think we fully explained that the guy tells him that he was basically working as a chemist for the government and made a drug that was basically supposed to make soldiers like
angry. It was supposed to your steroids for your emotion, your anger emotions.
And basically go primal. You just go like ape shit, and your fight or flight response, you basically like freak out to the point where you just like think you're in danger constantly and like kill on sight.
And he wants to, the guy's name is Michael, and the thing I'm reading right here. Michael as he's telling, he's making it really clear. He's like, I told them we shouldn't do this, even though I created it. And
he says he watches a test on apes, and they fucked each other up.
Yeah, he's like, but the government wanted to do it anyway. But you guys were the test, and way, because it was like also kind of in this like this is not details we really need, but like basically it was in a test environment in Vietnam. It was not in the battlefield of that. Right. And he was like, you all just ripped each other apart. The medics turned on you, like very graphic. And
well, that's another thing that I thought made it seem like maybe this guy wasn't 100% loyal, because he's like, I talked to the guys who cleaned up the bodies and all, the things they saw that you guys did to each other, those guys did to each other. But in the end, we just see Tim Robbins in a normal like field hospital. We don't see the aftermath of mayhem of that caliber. We just see him being worked on by regular army doctors in a regular army hospital.
You're right. Like it's MASH.
So I'm not sure how much of that. Again, I think it's left a little appropriately open.
Open-ended, absolutely, because
something to chew on.
Yeah, but we get that explanation, and basically this is when the movie wraps up. He goes back to his home, goes through some memories.
Right, he remembers being stabbed, and he has that memory of being stabbed by an American soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets in a cab, and it definitely feels like a very like mystical cab. He's like, take me home, and they just like take him to where he needs to go. It felt very Kevin Finnerty, like going to his family reunion on The Sopranos, like, you know what I mean? He gets to his like, it's obviously not the apartment he's been in with Jezebel. It's like a much nicer place, and the doorman's like, hello, Professor, and
this has been a long time,
Professor Singer, and we've been
feels
waiting
very much
for
like
you kind of thing.
At the heaven's gates of it all. And I do, the cab thing does remind me, and this is more of a dream, but that will always remind me of The Terminal. Tom Hanks' character finally leaving that place, getting in a cab and going, take me home. And it's like, the fuck's home?
Yeah. Aren't you from a foreign country? Isn't that the whole thing?
But yeah, he goes, and like you said, he wakes up in the tent, and the
doctors. He gets, the final thing is Gabe's there, and he takes his hand and leads him up the stairs, and into the light. And then we see Tim Robbins on an operating table in Vietnam, and we realize this is all taking place in his mind in the time that basically between the attack and him dying. This has been his like final thoughts, his mind kind of processing and working through his final synapses firing and so on.
Mm-hmm. And he put up a tremendous fight, and like we're supposed to think he's finally at peace and that's it. But yeah, the movie's just a real mindfuck. I mean, it's a
well, like I said, I definitely feel like it's you talked about the how did this get made thing, and Jason Mantzoukas will always be like looking for these subtle clues, and like it's obviously a half joke, but
yeah, it's a bit.
Obviously, he's not really thinking every movie's a Jacob's Ladder, but it's funny because of that, and because of my mindset of that, I expected it to be a much subtler thing. Like, to me, watching this, even as a first-time viewer, I feel like I would be like, oh, so he's dead. He's dead, right? We all know he's dead. Like, they keep saying he's dead, and he called the guy an angel, and there's all this, there's just like all this religious symbolism and stuff, and I just feel like it feels pretty obvious that he's dead.
He's dead.
I feel like in a post Sixth Sense world, you could not get away with this movie.
No, no, this is one of the Sixth Sense was like, oh my god, the twist the whole time, and then like
And I feel like this one had that effect too. I feel like people do remember the
you would,
Jacob's Ladder as a twist movie. Like,
yeah, I guess because I knew what it was, I was like, oh, it's a psychological thriller that wants to fuck me up.
yeah,
Like I had a we talked before we recorded, like since my trip and this week, I've been a little more I've just been like run down a little more
yeah,
melancholy than usual. And by that saying, I'm never melancholy. It was just like in a funk. And watching this, I'm like, oh, this movie either it didn't get me in a deeper funk because I didn't like inherently care that much,
right,
but like
right,
the movie wants to do that to
yeah.
you. Yeah, no, my favorite Zooks thing. I don't know if I don't know what episode that initially came from, the Jacob's Ladder scenario. My favorite one is I believe he says it in the Jack Frost movie of like it's a Jacob's scenario ladder. Like after Keaton dies, like this is just what his brain's thinking.
That one almost works
That does work.
because the movie's so fucking weird. It could only be like a dying brain firing off.
Well, in that movie, he when he first is discovered as a snowman, like his first night or whatever, he goes, "I'm a snowman. This is like," he basically says, "This is unoriginal." Like, because his name's Jack Frost and he's a snow.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, but I love, but yes, that is why, like, it's a Jacob scenario situation. I'm such a fan, but no, it's an interesting movie, and reading a little about it too, like, there's interesting, like production to it, right? Like, it went through like a couple different hands of people, and eventually had to do this, like the director Adrian Lin was supposed to make Bonfire of the Vanities, which at the time was this like that became like the world's biggest
but it was like a
failure.
coveted script though. People wanted to make it.
Yeah,
That's why it has Bruce Willis and
yeah,
Tom Hanks in
like
it. And
Tom Hanks was gonna be Jacob.
that would
Uh,
have been interesting because he hadn't really done drama yet at that
no, I
point.
mean, like, what are we a year away from Philadelphia?
No, longer than that. When did Philadelphia? It has to be 92 or 93.
93, I would say. Yeah, yeah, because
So this is only 1990. So we got a few years before he makes this big dramatic turn.
Hanks wins back to back Oscars.
Yeah, 93 and 94.
Yeah, so but like I could have seen a Tom Hanks at that age in this role.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
sorry.
He would have killed. We know he would have killed it because he's Tom Hanks.
He's Tom Hanks. I'm just reading the
But I think
other
Tim
things
Robbins is
about.
great. I think he's a great pick for this. Even if they only picked him because they wanted to channel Matthew Modine a little bit, I'm okay with that. He was very good.
It's such a good connection here because uh yeah, I did really like it. I definitely want to pick it up, to be quite
Yeah.
honest with
Let
you.
me know if there's a better version with any special features or something.
That's what I
Maybe
want to
I'll
look.
upgrade.
That's what I want to look for because I had to purchase it and it was like $3. There was no rental option
I
on
mean, my DVD was fine. It still works good. It still plays the movie. I'm very happy to be able to get to see it, so no complaints.
it. But you know, there's a lot of things. Yeah, the other thing I thought was weirder before we really end is the disclaimer at the end of the movie of like the government denies the use of these drugs, blah blah
Yeah,
blah.
that's what made me think like
And I'm like, the movie.
is the chemical weapon thing supposed to be real? Because I just don't feel like
That's why I
I don't feel like
come
they
with.
sold it well enough in the movie to make me buy it any more than anything else in the movie, you know?
That's why I want to come to you with it being like, I think it's supposed to be real, more
Yeah.
also in the sense of like,
That made it feel like the
like
movie wants you to think it's real
the
if nothing
movie wants to make
else.
you also seem like you watch this for a point of like the government's against you because they want to put drugs in you and this and this.
The
And
government should have just asked politely. There's plenty of people who would have just done drugs.
because there's like little druggy, I mean, once again, none of this is subtle, but like little druggy things in it with like the first time we were at the chiropractor's and he gets cracked. He gets that flashback, and it's like a drug. It's that
Yeah.
isn't an old wives' tale of like acid stays in your like spine and you like get a
Yeah, I
flash.
think that is a bit of an old wives'
So
tale.
like
I'm not sure if anybody ever had like a flashback because they got their back cracked too hard.
but like that seems like that's very purposely there.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree.
at the party before the big lizard fuck freak out, like there's it's strobe light.
Yeah.
you know.
Very, yeah, that definitely feels like
But
it feels like a rave, before raves were a thing.
but I agree with you, and that like the movie doesn't do me enough to be like, this is why you watch this movie. Your disclaimer almost would have made more sense of,
Well, it's like
X
even the
amount.
thing where he has the vision of the guy stabbing him. He doesn't have it until after a guy tells him that's what happened.
Yeah,
So again, you've got your thumb on the scale there. Like
yeah.
you can't just say that that's reality because like
Your
then by that logic, anything that's happened to him in this last time could be the real deal. You
yeah.
know?
Your ending card should almost be, if you want the movie to have like this grandiose point that you have to literally spell something out,
Yeah.
should be more of like 70,000 Vietnam came home and blah blah blah, and
Right. This many Vietnam veterans live on the streets. This many
and
people don't like.
go
Just talk about how they're unsupported. How
yes,
the
like
government didn't take care of them.
like that should be the message.
I agree. That would be a much better message.
Because the movie, this is one of those movies where like, if you were talking to an old head and you were like, or not even old head, if you were like, what's a great war movie or blah blah blah, or a Vietnam movie, and they could throw this back at you and be like, great one is actually Jacob's Ladder, and it is, and it's like a subgenre of that. Like, I think the filmmakers are like, oh, that's just an inciting incident to tell this story. Is it? But and then they remade it, and I'm always very curious to see how these.
Yeah, that was one of those real came and went remakes. No buzz on that one. It was just like
it stars
and I feel like it was a pandemic thing too, where it kind of got delayed and then came out late or something.
No,
am I wrong about that?
2019.
Oh, so it was pre-pandemic. Okay.
Yeah, that was with Michael Ealy.
But it didn't. Did it have like a weird production where it had been in production a long time and got delayed, or does it anything like that?
On it.
Nothing.
Yes, I think you're.
Because I feel like it was one. I just feel like I have a memory of that being one of the things with it that was supposed to come out and maybe was just like so bad they didn't release it for a while, kind of thing.
It sounds like it was made in like 2016, and then they dumped it in 2019 in the middle of this until. Oh no, this is insulting. Ooh, I gotta watch this. As a 4%.
Oh, hey, baby.
Only 23.
I'm listening.
Only 23 people reviewed it.
Lean in.
Or officially. But what this is embarrassing. Jacob's Ladder premiered on the Dish Network in the middle of the summer, before giving a little theatrical release at the end of August.
So was it a movie, not
a show?
It's a
movie. It's a movie.
Okay.
No, that's why I say it's embarrassing to be like.
Yeah, that is. Well, it's funny. You almost think they wish they would have sat on it, because then you had that period where everybody needed content. I bet they were like, "Damn, we could have just hung on to that another year. We would have had that'd have been a great pandemic movie to dump."
Oh yeah, it was a Thursday.
Like, remember that one Hugh Jackman movie, Reminiscence or whatever? Like, it could have been one of those.
Oh yeah, I forgot it. There was a couple of those.
It was kind of like a sci-fi detective movie where like the city was gonna flood, and like he was in some weird flooded city, and I don't know.
Right. Yeah, bad. So
what I remember, not good at all.
I only remember hitting.
But the new Jacob's Ladder could have been one of those.
Yeah. Oh, easily. Because I think they try to do like it's in Iraq or Afghanistan. Sure. Oh, it's in Afghanistan. The only thing I remember about it and why was on my radar is there was you're gonna go, Joe, you're the worst. There was a very brief period where I was listening to the most obnoxious film critics podcast, the William Bibbiani and his partner
Seibold
and Winnie Seibold. They had a podcast.
Oh yeah,
critically acclaimed.
What, you couldn't find a knitting needle to shove in your ear?
Yeah. So, they had the one podcast I liked was like they talked about shows that had like a season or less, and it was interesting. But after a minute, their takes and their voices just
occasionally I'll still see a Bibbiani tweet and I'll be like, I agree with that. But it's like
that's
the level I need to interact with him on.
He's like
one
trying
tweet every like 2 years.
More time than not, he's trying to go against the grain.
Yeah.
it feels like that. You'd be like, everyone loves Top Gun. I'd be like, I just can't support the military like that. And you're like, all right.
Honestly, find a less boring reason to dislike Top Gun. Just don't like it.
Oh, he might have loved
it.
He might have loved Top Gun for the record. Anyway, I only remember that because I remember in that era, one of them mentioning, I had to review the Jacob's Ladder remake, blah blah blah, and that's all my brain remembers of it.
That's funny.
Like I remember it being Michael Ealy, and then being like, yeah, he's such a handsome man because he's a very distinctively handsome man. Sure. But it's
again, he doesn't have that weird awkward energy that
But
Tim
like,
Robbins
why
brings.
is he starring? No, he's too good looking. Like, why is he starring in this?
He looks like a fucking movie star.
So,
I bet he's ripped too. I bet like there's like shirtless scenes where Jacob's all ripped in that one.
This movie's so bad, and then we're gonna end this episode, that its Wikipedia has more information about the development and casting than it does about like the synopsis. Like no one's actually written down the
No one
plot
cares about
breakdown.
the movie. They're just talking about like what a clusterfuck making the movie was.
I could read the one paragraph. After losing his brother in combat, soldier Jacob Singer returns home from Afghanistan only to be pulled into a mind-twisting state of paranoia. Singer soon realizes that his sibling is alive, but life is not what it seems. With his life now altered, he must figure out what is real and not. So this is a different movie.
Yeah, or it just sounds like they
did is
they clearly had a script. They clearly had a script that was like similar enough, and somebody was like, "How can we adapt this into a property people have heard of?"
Yeah,
and they were like, "Well, this kind of feels a little like Jacob's Ladder. It's got soldiers. It's got coming home and being weird and like weird stuff going on."
Jacob.
If we change the character's name to Jacob Singer, we could kind of like twist this into a. That's very much what it feels like to me. Which is so funny because Jacob's Ladder is not a movie people remember enough to make a remake. It's like the fact that it's like when people tell you that the Fall Guy, that they're like, they're like, the problem is that they need to make something original. It's like nobody remembers that the Fall Guy was a TV show in the 80s, you idiot. Like nobody didn't go see the Fall Guy because they're sick of remakes. That's not the reason.
No one was like, can't believe they're doing it. Like I
can't believe they disrespect Lee Majors like this.
The movie was fun as hell.
Yeah, it looked fun. Here's the thing. I knew that shit would be on streaming in like 2 months. And I'm like, I'm not going to go to the theater to see that. And I feel like everybody felt the same way. That'll be a fun thing to watch on my couch on streaming. It did not feel like an event to see in the theater.
I told my in-laws to see it. And they had no recollection of a TV show that ran for, I believe, 6 or 7 seasons.
I remember I watched The Fall Guy in syndication. It had a great theme song.
All right, anyway.
This has not been an episode about Fall Guy, in case you were wondering. No. This has been about Jacob's Ladder, a movie that we liked.
Highly, highly recommend. This is a very good movie.
Honestly, it's a cult classic at this point. I know I said a lot about like how I didn't think it would hang in the modern, but I think it holds up. Like, I think it's still a very enjoyable movie, and I think you could watch it, especially if you'd never seen it before and had no concept, and it would still work on you. Like, even though it's not as subtle as it might have been if it was made today, I still think you could get surprised by this movie.
There's definitely people I know would eat this shit up. All right. Highly recommend.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired. Stay frightful, everyone.
Go have some more weird dreams, Joe. Have some weird freak dreams.
You know I will. Welcome to Flyover State of Fear.